The South China Sea, a crucial waterway for global trade and rich in resources, has long been a source of tension. This vast expanse of water is not just a vital shipping route but also a treasure trove of marine biodiversity and potential underwater oil and gas reserves. 6 countries have overlapping claims in the region, leading to frequent disputes and diplomatic standoffs. These nations include China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, each asserting their own historical and legal rights over parts of the sea. At the heart of the issue lies China's expansive claim, demarcated by the controversial 9-dash line. This demarcation, which stretches deep into the maritime territories of other nations, has been a flashpoint for regional tensions. This claim, which encompasses nearly the entire South China Sea, has been met with resistance from neighboring countries and the international community. Protests have erupted, and international summits have been convened to address the escalating tensions. In 2013, the Philippines filed a case against China at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, challenging the legality of the 9-dash line. This bold move was seen as a significant step in seeking a legal resolution to the ongoing disputes. The Philippines argued that China's claim violated the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, an international treaty that establishes rules for maritime zones and resources. According to this convention, nations have sovereign rights over their exclusive economic zones, which extend 200 nautical miles from their coastlines. China, however, refused to participate in the arbitration proceedings, arguing that the tribunal lacked jurisdiction over the matter. Beijing maintained that the disputes should be resolved through bilateral negotiations rather than international arbitration. Despite China's absence, the tribunal proceeded with the case, and in July 2016, it issued a landmark ruling that sent shockwaves through the region and beyond. The tribunal's decision was a pivotal moment in the history of international maritime law. The tribunal's verdict, which overwhelmingly favored the Philippines, has had significant implications for the South China Sea dispute and the future of international law. It not only invalidated China's 9-dash line but also set a precedent for how similar disputes might be resolved in the future. The ruling has been celebrated by some and criticized by others, highlighting the complex and contentious nature of the South China Sea issue. China's claim to the South China Sea is based on what it calls the 9-dash line, a demarcation line that first appeared on Chinese maps in the 1940s. This line has been a point of contention for decades, as it represents China's assertion of sovereignty over a vast and resource-rich area. This line, which encompasses approximately 90% of the South China Sea, overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of several Southeast Asian countries, including the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei. These overlapping claims have led to numerous diplomatic and sometimes physical confrontations in the region. China argues that its claim is rooted in historical precedent, citing centuries of fishing and navigation in the region. They point to ancient records and artifacts as evidence of their long-standing presence and activities in these waters. However, critics argue that China's historical claims are vague and lack a solid legal basis under international law. They contend that historical usage does not equate to sovereign rights, especially when modern international laws are considered. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which both China and the Philippines are signatories to, grants coastal states sovereign rights over a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. This framework is designed to ensure fair and equitable use of the world's oceans. Within this zone, the coastal state has exclusive rights to explore and exploit marine resources, such as fish stocks, oil, and gas. These resources are vital for the economic development and food security of the coastal nations. China's 9-dash line claim, however, extends far beyond its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, encroaching upon the exclusive economic zones of its neighbors. This expansive claim has been a source of significant tension and conflict in the region. This has led to disputes over fishing rights, oil and gas exploration, and the construction of artificial islands. These activities have not only economic implications but also environmental ones, as the delicate marine ecosystems are disrupted. China has been accused of using its growing economic and military might to assert its claims in the South China Sea, raising concerns about its intentions in the region. The presence of Chinese naval ships and the establishment of military bases on artificial islands have been particularly provocative. Its assertive actions, including the construction of artificial islands and the deployment of military assets, have heightened tensions with neighboring countries and fueled fears of potential conflict. These developments have prompted other nations to increase their military presence and conduct joint exercises in the area. The 2016 Tribunal ruling was seen as a crucial test of China's commitment to international law and its willingness to resolve disputes peacefully. The ruling, which invalidated China's extensive claims, was a significant moment in the ongoing saga of the South China Sea. But China has largely ignored the decision, continuing its activities unabated. In recent years, China has engaged in a massive island-building campaign in the South China Sea, transforming reefs and shoals into artificial islands equipped with airstrips, harbors, and military installations. This ambitious project has not only changed the physical landscape of the region but also the geopolitical dynamics, as these newly constructed islands serve multiple strategic purposes. These activities have significantly altered the status quo in the region and raised alarm bells among neighboring countries and the international community. The rapid pace of construction and the scale of these developments have led to increased scrutiny and concern over China's long-term intentions in the South China Sea. China claims that these artificial islands serve civilian purposes, such as search and rescue operations and scientific research. They argue that the infrastructure built on these islands is intended to provide public goods and services, including weather monitoring and maritime safety. However, the scale and scope of the island building, coupled with the deployment of military aircraft and vessels, suggest a more assertive posture aimed at strengthening China's control over the disputed waters. The presence of military installations, including radar systems and missile batteries, indicates a strategic military objective behind these developments. The construction of these islands has been widely condemned as a violation of international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which prohibits states from claiming sovereignty over artificial islands. International tribunals have ruled against China's expansive claims, but enforcement remains a significant challenge. China's actions have been seen as an attempt to change the facts on the ground and bolster its territorial claims in the South China Sea. By creating these islands, China aims to establish a stronger presence and exert greater control over the region, effectively challenging the claims of other nations. The island-building campaign has heightened tensions between China and other claimant states, leading to a series of confrontations and diplomatic protests. Countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia have all voiced strong objections, leading to a more volatile and unpredictable regional environment. The United States, which has significant security interests in the region, has conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, challenging China's excessive maritime claims and demonstrating its commitment to upholding international law. These operations are intended to ensure that the waters remain open and accessible to all nations, in accordance with international norms. The South China Sea has become a focal point of geopolitical rivalry between China and the United States, raising the stakes for all involved and increasing the risk of miscalculation and conflict. As both nations continue to assert their interests, the potential for a military confrontation looms large, making the South China Sea one of the most contentious and closely watched regions in the world today.